Hello, everyone. This is Tony DeSantis and my co-presenter, Jeff Wallace. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar through the BrightTalk platform. I wanted to share just a few insightful comments about my background and have Jeff do the same before we jumped in. We are both career veterans in the business consulting and IT consulting and tech startup world, and really have developed a passion for communication across teams and people that we work with. Myself in particular, I am an advocate for developing top performing teams. And one of the things that I've always focused in on throughout my entire career is that a team absolutely, positively has to be in sync with the information they share and the information that they're engaging with. And that's really what led me to want to jump into this topic of doing versus knowing, and what I refer to as the paradox of communications engagement. And then later on, develop with my co-founder, Stephanie Hunter, a technology that specifically addresses this gap and helping top performance teams to close it. Jeff, maybe you can give us a little bit of information on your background and your thoughts around the notion of digital communications engagement and where you fit into it.
Absolutely, and good morning, everybody. This is Jeff Wallace from Global Kinetics. I am a colleague and partner in crime, so to say, with Tony and his team at Ving, in the belief that communication is so incredibly important and vital to everything we do in business. And I work across the globe with people in various time zones and places. And what I have found myself doing throughout the years of my business is sending a lot of emails, sending people a lot of files, doing a lot of activity, but never really knowing exactly how well the things I was sharing with my work colleagues were working. And when I met Tony and his colleagues, I was really, really compelled by their similar focus on making sure that we're able to have that kind of knowledge and know how much people engage with things that they're receiving from us. And that just got us really aligned, and I'm excited for him to be sharing this and to share my own insights as well. So thanks, Tony.
So good. Yeah, so a couple of little housekeeping things here before we move on, everyone. We've got a great audience out there today, by the way. The numbers are climbing here, so that's good. We're going to have a few polling questions throughout today's session, and we'd like you to wait before you respond to those polling questions until we ask you to submit your responses, and then we'll have an opportunity to chat about your responses as it relates to the specific information on the slide. Also through the BrightTalk platform, you'll see that there's a spot for you to present questions to both Jeff and myself throughout. If the question is directly related to the slide that we're talking about, we'll try to address it right then and there. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and at the end do some wrap up and address some of the general questions that might have come up that we didn't have a chance to get to throughout the presentation. Obviously, we want to keep on task and make sure that we cover all the presentation information that we've put together today. And hopefully I know how to use the BrightTalk system well enough to expose the votes when they actually need to be presented to the audience. So let's hope that all works out for us. So let's just go ahead and frame this in a little bit. What is the problem, and why do we feel like it needs to be addressed? So literally throughout my entire career, working with teams, whether they're all in one location, spread across different floors, or on a multi-location project team throughout the United States and Europe, over the years, I've just found this common thread, and I think it's a common thread not just for me, but for the hundreds of business people that I've met throughout my career, is that we personally just don't know how effective we are with the digital information that we're sharing. And that transcends down to another level of the teams that are working for us. And of course, we're in the business of knowing, and that's what helps us to succeed. The more we know about how engaged our team members are, our customers are, our employees are, our partners are with the information that we share, the better position we are in to succeed. So it just begs the question, why hasn't this problem been solved in a more usable, manageable way for everyone out there, especially when you think about the types of issues that it brings to the table. It's resulting in lost time, lost opportunity, and lost results. I mean, we've all been there before where we have like a team of 10 people that are working for us, or a buyer network of 5 people that we've been working with. And we think to ourselves, I just shared all this information with these folks. Who's really got it, read it, understood it, took a look at it, consumed it all? And how many iterations do I have to go through to get to that point where I feel like I've definitely connected with them? And then over time, how do I get better at communicating with people to make sure that I'm not losing the opportunity and I'm maximizing my results? So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can show a question to the audience here. And let's see, question number 1. If you're an audience member out there and you can see this, I'm hoping that you can reply. And it says, click start voting. So now, if you're voting, okay, there you go. I think everybody should be able to see the question now. Basically what we're trying to do is find out the types of individuals that we're talking to today and how the problem fits into their organization. Thank you so much. I see some responses coming in now. If you could select the area of focus that best reflects your area of work. And we'll just let that stay open, and you can go ahead and continue to answer the polling results. So when we think about the information sources that are out there today and available to our organizations, we think to ourselves, but aren't there some systems out there that are already helping me and my team know and our organization know exactly how effective we are with the information that we share? And the answer is yes. There's all kinds of systems out there, but my personal observations are that they're very siloed systems. They're tech tools that operate in a silo of an organization. There are things like an automated marketing system, which produces awesome information and insights as to how engaged people are with the information you share. But that information is not readily available to the leadership, to the salespeople, to the corporate trainers, to the educators that need to know how engaged people are with the information that they're sharing on a regular basis. Just like an email blast system or a survey tool, you really wouldn't want to see a sales rep going into SurveyMonkey and constructing a survey and then sending it to 5 people in a buyer network. It's just not effective or efficient. And it makes it very difficult for them to get access to some of these tools that the typical users have everyday access to and leverage the aggregation of data to their advantage. And so as a result, what ends up happening is that, you know, we've got this obsession around big data, and it's got this promise to collect and store and be giving us the ability to search and analyze and drive major insights and literally deliver proactive actions. But the reality of it is, these types of systems in our organizations, when we find them, the truly insightful ones are very siloed, and they're only available to a very select group of audience. And that becomes a big challenge, and it's something that we have to address. And it really leads to the question of what types of tools are we using every day to share our information? And I'm talking about the critical mass, the 80% of your employee base that doesn't have access to those siloed systems. Well, these are the kinds of systems that we're all using, right? We're using Gmail, Outlook, Salesforce.com, Twitter. We're texting like crazy. We're using Slack to share information, track conversations. Of course, we're using our phones and leaving voicemails as well. These are all systems that help our teams get stuff done. And we really are really obsessed these days because there's so many different tools out there that allow us to quickly share information across a large number of people, that we find that our daily routine is very focused on doing. And we oftentimes tend to measure our productive day by numbers, by numbers of information shared, numbers of tweets, numbers of likes, numbers of calls made, numbers of emails sent. And we measure that and use that as a sense of engagement with the people that we're sharing information with. But it truly is a false sense of engagement. Just because I've shared it or pushed it out there doesn't necessarily mean that anybody has truly engaged with that. I'll go ahead and ask another question. I'll open up the polling for that now. And it's a very simple question. It's we use these kinds, whoops, I'm on the wrong question, I think. I jumped. Yeah, well, we'll just leave that up there because I think it's coming on the next slide. Sorry about that, everyone. So basically, there is feeling. And so when we think about these types of communication tools that we use, we really have to ask ourselves, are we doing the right things? Are we communicating the right information? And the fact of the matter is, we have to look at the reality of the situation. We just don't know what people are doing with the documents or messages that we send. And without ever knowing, the communication engagement gap between a sender and receiver is bound to grow. So the reality of it is, other than those siloed information tools, what type of information is available to the people in our in the everyday work lives to actually give them the ability to know what they're doing is actually on task and on target and leading to that optimal amount of engagement. So I would, go ahead and think about in your workday how many times you're sharing information with similar groups of people or new groups of people, or you've tasked people in your employee base to share information across the network outside of those siloed systems. Now go ahead and ask yourself, how do each of those teams measure the effectiveness, whether they know whether or not they're really pushing for optimal engagement between the sender and the receiver? How do they know how big that engagement gap is, that of knowing whether or not people are receiving information in the right context? I see a couple of questions coming in from the audience. I'll go ahead and address those at a later time. Jeff, did you have a comment?
No, I'm just wondering if maybe we move to the one of the next poll questions. We've had a good response so far to the two that have been asked. I'm just wondering if people understand the value of doing that and knowing how engaged people are. So, yeah, I think this poll is a good one to put up here just to get a sense. Yeah, so I just went and did that and broadcast it to the group. You can see a question up there that says, there are times where I feel I need to know exactly how engaged people are with the information I share. And I apologize for a little bit of a navigation through the BrightTalk screen here as I'm trying to talk as well and making sure that I pick the right polling question. We'll just go ahead and leave that polling question up. I know that for a fact in a couple of the scenarios that we're going to cover in a few minutes here, that it is truly a staple of our day where we need to know how engaged people are, even more so when it comes to compliance information and or prospect qualifying information, training information, and onboarding. It's really important for us to be able to close that loop and understand what that level of engagement is. Now, when we think about it, I'm going to go ahead and advance to the next slide here. There's all types of tools out there today that do offer the promise of a feedback loop. And some of these tools, as you can see, are things that track email opens. Has somebody clicked on a hyperlink that I provided them? Tools that track conversations between teams and archive information, project management tools, collaboration tools of this sort, forms that are simple that allow me to create the ability to get simple responses. These are all great tools that help us check the box and to really help us say, yep, I shared that information, and the result is I know they got it because I saw they opened it, or I know they clicked on it because I got a notification that somebody clicked on a link. And the reality of it is there's significant limitations to these type of feedback loops.
And really, they don't offer up any learning curve. They just offer up a validation that somebody has actually confirmed a receipt or actually confirmed that they clicked on something. What we don't know is whether or not any specific combination of that data was any better than any other. So when you think about like these enhanced email management tools and the ability to track whether or not somebody's opened it, or a survey app that allows you to measure information on individuals, these internal messaging tools that track the conversations, this is all basic level of data feedback, and there's no really any capture of this insightful, reusable information, which is really the direction that we need to be headed. So when you think about it, how might I be able to put information out there and get beyond this limitation? Where can I actually start to get dramatic data-driven insights? And if I don't do that, how is it going to affect my teams? So if I take a look at a typical team that's collaborating on a creation process, let's say that it's a marketing team and a sales manager team, and they're getting ready to produce some sales collateral. They're producing white papers, product videos, marketing slicks, stuff like that. And what they do is they go through and they immediately embark on a collaboration. Maybe they're using Google Docs or some other type of collaboration tool that helps them get things done. And they're sharing information back and forth at rapid rates, collaborating on creating the best video, the best documents, the best customer testimonials. And during this time, they're going through lots of cycles. They're burning company resources, budget, and time to produce them. And then the reality of it is that what they need to do is they take that finished product and they put a shit out to the field. And they have a sales rep like ours here on the right-hand side who now starts using that information and starts emailing it out as attachments to a group of prospects or a buyer network. And we're using information that was prepared by our company through our company resources all the way down on the front line. And the people that were creating that information had access to those siloed tools that actually told them different ways to create it based upon keyword searches, based upon other competitor information, all kinds of things that got aggregated for them. But what they didn't necessarily have is the finished end product of it, which is the sales reps' immediate information from the first touch of that buyer network interacting with that information, that prospect base interacting with that information, to really let them know, was the creation of that video spot on? Did people engage with 100% of the video, or did they just watch it to the 3-minute mark? When the video is coupled with a proposal, is a client more apt to watch the entire video and look at the proposal? If the video, the proposal, and a survey were grouped together, what happens to my engagement level? What if there's 3 questions in the survey versus 10 questions? What is the maximum level of engagement these resources that were used by the company were able to create, and how effective are they? We have to look at this and say, where is the wall that we hit? And when can we possibly start to gather information from that first touch back to the sales rep so they have meaningful information, and from that sales rep back into our teams that create the information? It becomes a very critical process, and so often we see it fall short.
Hey
so
Tony,
now,
this is Jeff.
Yes.
I just want to, before you move on to this next slide, I just want to touch on something and emphasize a point you made on this slide here that I think is really important and critical. You talked about, for example, a video. If you send somebody a video and, say, a survey and maybe a document of some sort, a PowerPoint or a proposal or a PDF, whatever format it may take, I think the important part here is that people get to understand, if you send a video and that video is, say, 3 minutes, you would know by using this technology that Tony is describing that people are only watching the first minute of the video. And that might help you craft better collateral. Maybe you would make adjustments to the video so that in the future when you were sending it out, you would really only shorten it down to a 1 minute, kind of time span, since that seems to be the attention span. And you would have visibility and knowledge of that based upon the description that Tony was giving, that this technology allows you to see how long did people watch the video. Did they watch it through to the end, or did they only watch a certain, up to a certain point? Similarly, it's the same thing with some of the other files, be they audio files or PowerPoint files. You would know how engaged the receivers of that information were with that. And I think that's really powerful. It's easy to gloss over that, but I think having that visibility and knowledge in this context of a sales collateral and a sales rep engaging with prospects is really, really powerful.
You're absolutely spot on, Jeff. It really supports the problem there of doing versus knowing, and or just assuming and guessing that people are engaged with the information that you've shared. Because remember what we talked about at the very beginning. We're only in business because we know things. We're in the business of knowing how engaged people are with our product information, our employee information. And if we don't know, then we have big gaps. And whenever we have big gaps in communication, it invites problems and or lost opportunity, time, and so on. And so really we've got, in this particular scenario, the need to know on a sales rep's part exactly how engaged prospects are so that they can prioritize their day. And they also need to be able to know, if I send this combination of information to this type of buyer, then it's most likely going to produce a maximum in level of engagement. And it's critical that they get to a point of saying, whenever I'm selling product X to a human resources manager in a company the size of this, I know that if I send them these three assets together, I'm going to get maximum engagement. Take the guesswork out of what to send. Then the sales rep is on point, and then the information that goes back to the marketing team that creates the next level of information can tailor it even further. And that's really when we get into the power swing of knowing versus just doing, of sharing for the sake of sharing because the tool's there and makes it easy for me to share stuff. Make sure you're sharing the right information. And that's really what leads into this concept of a shareable best practice. Now, in the polling results, I noticed that out of our audience here, we have 72% of the audience is actually using some type of email tracking tool, something that tracks clickable open rates, all of those tools that were mentioned way earlier on a slide. And if you think about a lot of those tools, it's a data point, and it's multiple disparate data points. None of them are necessarily telling you that this is a best practice, and that nor are they giving you a vehicle to share a best practice, reuse a best practice across your organization. And so that becomes absolutely critical. And I see somebody here just threw a question in that I think is worth addressing right now. And it has to do with, the question is basically, what do you mean by reusable knowledge, and how would you reuse this knowledge? And I think it's a little bit of what I'm talking about right now. It's great to invest in tools to track and confirm and allow you to check that green box that you get done with. But if the knowledge only stays in that one individual that sent that one email or that one set of links to a group of buyers that you're trying to sell your product to, then it's not a very reusable or shareable best practice. The technology that you choose that really helps you to eliminate this communication engagement gap across your organization has got to be one where you can track the progress of that communication packet, if you will, of information over time, and to the point where you say, aha, we've done enough iterations of this. This is the packet of information that everyone needs to use when they're doing cold calling. This is the packet of information what everybody needs to use when presenting this particular customer service that we provide to customers that are in this particular vertical market. And now, if I have a tool that allows me to take the results of those frontline interactions, package it up, and share it with 10 other people in the organization or 10,000 other people at the drop of a hat for reuse in their local markets, Now we're talking about tracking data on that front line, making it reusable across an organization. And that's critical. And that's a major difference between tweeting, posting, sharing, emailing, and just tracking likes, views, and things like that. We need to think about the real-time frontline of people that are really accountable to get that level of engagement up with the audience that makes the biggest difference. So let's go ahead and take a look at.
Tony, if you don't mind, I'd like to just jump in with a thought here as well. I think the analogy that you're describing is a bit like an A/B testing kind of loop. It's a feedback loop. We now, through the technology available to us today, have the ability to have a feedback loop, even when it's kind of a not a direct feedback loop. You were just being able to know that people are only engaging with certain pieces of material or watching only so much of a video or listening to only so much of an audio file. We're able to know that, learn that, and adjust our collateral materials in the sales context or in other contexts based upon that knowledge that we learn, and then we can share that across as a best practice. As we learn more and more across different channels, we can see how people are engaging with material, which material is driving the deepest level of engagement and the most engagement from the recipients, and adjust it and share it across the rest of the organization.
Right.
There's another question that came in here, but go ahead and comment on that, and then I'll share another question that's come in from the audience.
No, actually, let's go. I was just going to point us to this question that came in because it's spot on with what you're talking about here. It's basically, how do you connect the dots? How do you connect your development and customer support teams with your sales reps to ensure that the prospects, that the rep is presenting the right information and portraying the right message to the team? And that is a level of control that you need to create. So reps can go in and obviously change a message and ruin or really derail the best practice that you've set up, right? So you need to make sure that you have the correct method. So let's say you're going to group a video, an audio, a document, and a survey together as a best practice. You need to have to make sure you have the correct tool that can easily secure that information, allow the rep to personalize it to some extent to deliver it in their area. So personalizing it to me means rather than it look like the information is coming from a generic source, I can relate it to a conversation that I've had with the customer last week or yesterday, and then share that packet of grouping of information with them, and it becomes the standard, the best practice of sharing. If that hopefully answers the question. Jeff, I don't know if you had a different insight on that or perspective on it.
No, I think that definitely hits it for me, is just that ability to have that feedback loop that can be permeated throughout the organization, whether it's coming from customer support, development. People get to understand how the things they're using. This could occur, be it software, be it marketing collateral, be it any kind of communication. And it's that feedback loop that allows us to adjust it and create that kind of get everyone in the organization on the same page, because they're all being able to see that same information, that same feedback, to know how to make those adjustments and accommodations.
Yep, absolutely. And one last comment on that, and we'll move to the next slide, is that it's important that they're portraying the right information to the right people, but it's also important that sales rep is getting engagement data on what they shared so that they can make proactive decisions on how to interact with the prospect or how to interact with the buyer network. So let's say they shared a best practice with the buyer network, and in there was, it went to like 5 different types of buyers at the organization. They're going in for a presentation on Friday. And this is critical that they interact with all of the information in this packet, this digital packet of information. And they can see that 2 of the stakeholders didn't watch the whole video, the 4-minute video that explains exactly how we've customized the proposal to their environment and to their needs. And so I can take proactive action before Friday, before my big presentation, and reach out to those people and make sure that I connect with them in a way that I know that I'm eliminating any red flags before I walk in the door. And that really becomes really important. somebody just threw a question in there that, they're in the education field. So, it says, I'm in education. How does this relate to me? This is huge. So if you're in education, in training, corporate training, or in higher education, or any other part of it, this is really important because you can track if you have the ability to track people's progress through an information share, then before they walk in the room where you're going to be educating them or training them exactly how far along they've gone through the materials that's required of them to be a good participant. It's really no different than the example that I gave for the buyer network. Really what we're doing is sending out information prior to a meeting, prior to a training session, prior to a class lecture hall, and then we want to be able to see, before we get in front of those people, how did they engage with the information that I shared? And over time, I want to learn the best way to share information with them. And the whole idea is to close that engagement gap. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide and take a look at that same team.
Hey, Tony, before you move on, just a quick mention on the education side is your partnership that you have in the education space. I think that would be worth noting.
Oh, a
little bit on that.
Yeah, well, we're partnered with Google and Google Classroom. So we are completely integrated with Google Classroom. We're also completely integrated with Google Apps for Work, which makes a completely great learning curve for us. So we work with the Google teams, and we understand really what a critical mass audience is doing out there. And Google is very focused on getting things done in their collaboration tools. In fact, if you look at a lot of their branding, it's about get more done. And so we've learned a lot from our partners on this problem and helping us to really see and dig deeper into how to frame in the problem and hopefully tackle it with a technology solution. So as it relates to team collaboration, creation process, but driven by data-driven insights, that's really what it's all about and what we want to get to. So imagine the team that was in the back office that's working on data that's coming into their automated marketing system or to their system that tracks their Twitter feed or their LinkedIn feeds, and they're creating those collateral pieces. Imagine if that same information was coming in from that far right-hand side of this visual, that group of prospects, that group of employees, that group of people that need to be engaged most in real time back to that team in the ivory tower, so to speak, that was working on creating that information. The knowledge and insight that they would have on the people that absolutely have to be influenced by what logical grouping of information would be just so powerful to that team. And on the sales rep side, it would be absolutely powerful to them, really bringing that siloed system forward to the everyday employee, the person that needs to know how engaged those prospects are with the information so they can clearly identify who to call on now and to achieve better results. So we see this continuum here of information flowing from the field, from the frontline touch, all the way to the back office. And it really completes that continuum, not only on the creation side, but also on the access to information side for people who are on the front line. And that becomes a very powerful way for us to change the dynamic and to really think about leaving the world of digital communication solely driven by intuition and guesswork behind us, and saying, just because I have these tools to let me share information as fast as I possibly can doesn't mean that I'm engaging everybody. It means that I'm getting information out there as fast as I possibly can. But I need to stop the guesswork on the front line, the critical mass of employees that need to know how engaged people are with their information. And I've got to have the right tools that allow them to do that. So I believe that if we do data right, we can stretch it all the way across the organization. And if we do data right, we can build a bridge of communications over that gap that people face every day. And we see it happening already in our customer base, and we see it already happening in other people's customer base as they start to use it. It's the point at which you fail to realize that you have this paradox, that you have this problem, that it becomes exponentially bigger challenge for you because we're also blinded. We have this false sense of engagement that because we're sharing at rapid fire rates, I mean, content is everywhere these days. But the reality of it is you can't talk to a marketer anywhere in the world or talk to anybody who's an expert in creation of content that if it's not relevant and you don't know the exact right combination, you'll never unlock the key to advancing towards your goal. It'll just take you too long to get there. It's up to us to do data right, span it across the organization, and make sure that people have access so that they can clearly influence their decision making and take proactive action. So we talked a lot about the Salesforce example, and just before we talk about other audiences, I wanted to take a deep dive and say, well, what would people see? You know, what could that sales rep see? Well, imagine this particular visual here, a sales rep looking at a dashboard, and they just shared this digital trackable packet of information with their target audience. And on their dashboard, they can clearly see the people that they've invited to look at it, how many times they've looked at it, the number of visits they've made, and their progress. And did they watch 10% of the video, 50% of the video? If I left them a voicemail or an audio message, did they listen to 100% of it or just half of it? And I can watch in my dashboard in real time as somebody is consuming that asset in that packet of information that I've sent to them. When I pair this video along with a document and a survey, do I get better completion rates? And for whom do I get better completion rates? For my biggest customer, right? So I'm really talking about how well I can engage, and then in real time, seeing this data in front of me and being able to drill down on it so I know who to call when. And it becomes this very powerful message for that frontline employee to help them drive their day. It's obviously can be presented to them very simplified. But the power of the back office is they get this information aggregated across their entire network. Now they can see in real time the best combination of best practices to make available across the divisions of their company nationally or internationally. And it really becomes a way for us to leave this world behind and be able of just sheerly sharing information for the sake of sharing it because it's so easy to do, to knowing that the information we shared is really connecting with people. But the reality of it is that, you know, we use the salesperson example in this. Regardless of your role.
Tony, before you jump in, there's a question on that last slide that I think you could hit on regarding specific recipient engagement, but does this also apply to large-scale sends as well? And can you identify trends of engagement on the information easily? I think that's a really good question that touches.
It's a very important question. So any tool that you use, I'm a firm believer these days. There's so many tools out there, and you walk into any company, and you know the poor IT people. I tell you, they've got tools everywhere, and you've got leadership teams working with their teams who are using all kinds of communication tools, and information and data is spread across all of these tools. So it becomes very important to pick tools wisely these days and to really help give guidance to your teams on picking a tool that has the ability to transcend across the organization and be used in a variety of different ways, but allows us to keep that data very simply coming back to one location so that we can take a look at it and start to recognize trends. So for example, as we talked about in the last slide, of the digital packet of information, right? So this digital trackable packet of information that this person's the person's using, the sales rep, could be being used by 20 people, 1,000 people, right? And the reality of it is we need to know across that entire database of people exactly how engaged they are with all of that information. So not only on an aggregate basis can I see and understand this, but all the way down to the individual, I need to see and understand it and how it affects me in closing the deal at this particular customer before the end of the month. One tool spanning data needs across the company. Now, when you're developing a best practice.
Talk about it over time as well. Talk about it over time, if you will, as well. This question also touched on the trends of the engagement.
Right. So you have to be able to say, okay, and this is typical for any kind of marketing system. It's just about using a tool that can bring it all the way down to the front line, right? I need to be able to put a packet of information together that includes 3 asset types: a video, a document, and a survey. And I need to give it a name. I need to call this, the product overview packet for, customers who are in a particular vertical market, right? And I give it that name, and then people start using it. And I see that I've got engagement rates across my dashboard for that particular packet. Sorry for jumping around here, but this is the best slide to take a look at it. So I can see there's 3 things in this yellow box in the upper right-hand corner here. There's a video, a document, and a survey. Now, I can track my level of engagement by asset inside this packet of information. And what I can see over time is that the video doesn't seem to be performing as well as the document and the survey. Why is that? Maybe I should take the video from 10 minutes down to 3 minutes. So all I do is change the length of the video by reshooting it. And now I see that all of a sudden the video, instead of having poor engagement, jumps up and now has 75% level of engagement. And then when I change it and I take out the survey, I notice that 100% of the people watch the video and 100% of the people read the document. Now over time, I've had 3 revisions of the same packet of information, and I'm able to go and take a look at each one of those revisions, and they determine which one is the best is the best practice. Which one is the best grouping of information to get the maximum level of engagement when shared with this type of person, this demographic of viewer. And that's really when I want to package that up, now that I've analyzed the trend over time, and I want to share it with a large group of people. I might even find, if my company is national, that this packet needs to have 3 different versions of it, one for the East Coast, one for Midwest, and one for the West, because people in the East Coast, they only give videos 3 minutes and done, whereas people in the Midwest will watch a 5-minute video, and the people on the West Coast don't want anything to do with videos. So we can start to see that level of measurement and refinement with the information that we share from a person to the people they're accountable to communicate with. Does that make sense? Okay. So jumping back into the presentation for the sake of time and keeping things moving forward here, we've used a scenario around a salesperson throughout the entire conversation today, but the reality of it is that regardless of your role, there's this sense of accountability to share information that people want to engage with. And there's also a sense of need to move from just doing things to knowing that what I'm doing, what I'm sharing, is actually the right combination of content to share. So you could take an example. Let's take a shop foreman in a warehouse or a manufacturing facility, and they're communicating on a regular basis with people out on the shop floor or in that warehouse. They need to know that when I share information with the 100 workers out on the shop floor or the 1,000 workers on the shop floor, that I'm going to get the best level of engagement when I couple that information sharing with a personal video from their boss, me, that says, here's why this information is important, and here are the 3 things that you need to take away from it. Now read this document and answer the questions. I need to know that if I do that every time, I'm going to get 100% engagement with the information I share. On the other hand, I need to know that every time I do that, if nobody watches my video, they don't care, right? They just jump right to the document or jump right to the survey. So I need to find a better way to communicate. Maybe instead of doing a video, I do an audio message the next time, and I realize when communicating to that group of employees, they listen to the whole thing. And what I find out is that they're listening. Most of my people have long commutes home. They're just pressing play and letting it play over the Bluetooth in their car, and they're listening to me talk to them on their way home. Well, I'm looking at my dashboard in real time, and I can see exactly when people listen to that audio file and I can see that they're doing it at 5:30 every day when they're driving. So now I start to learn every time I want to communicate with people on the shop floor or in that warehouse, do an audio file, 3 minutes long, couple it with a short one-page PDF and a one-question survey, and send it at 5:15, because I know that they're going to engage with that message. And maybe that message is real important about what needs to be done tomorrow in order to make our throughput goals, or what needs to be done tomorrow with a major customer order that's coming through that we need to assure that we're hitting the right levels of quality production. You know, think about all the different types of leadership positions in our companies that we have. We have teams spread all over the country, all over one building, multiple floors. We need to understand in what situation, what is the right combination of information to get the maximum level of recipient engagement. And then a bonus to all of this kind of tracking is there's some times where I need to have compliance tracking, and I need to be able to show for certain that 100% of my employees watched this video regarding this safety procedure in the plant, or this safety procedure in our building if there's a tornado or some type of natural disaster. Or I need to know that my people understand that we are going to have executives from the home office in New York City visiting us in Kansas this week, and what's important for them to know about their visit. These are all different ways that I communicate with my team. And not always are people available to have a meeting, and not always do I want to call them all together to have this meeting. I need to deliver on-demand messages, and I need real-time data-driven insights that quickly let me identify where to take proactive action and where to close that engagement and gap. Gone are the days, long gone, where I can just package it up in an email and go, oh, great, they opened it, they clicked on it, and expect that they're reading it and expecting that they've consumed all the information. So someone has just asked that, this kind of sounds robust, how difficult it is to use this technology. Analytics sound incredible, but I don't have time to add something complex to my daily workflow. This is a great question. We get this kind of thing all the time, and I, without a doubt, ask any vendor that any SaaS application that's getting ready to put any kind of tool into your company, how challenging it is to implement and work with. The reality of it is that the technology that we've developed and that allows you to do this kind of thing is very simple technology, and has been mimicked completely after all types of procedures that we're very, very familiar with, like the email creation process, uploading application to uploading a file as an attachment. It's all about following processes that you're familiar with every day of the week, and to get to this every day use throughout your day to make sure that you can create a digital packet of information. Our software in particular, quite frankly, does almost all the heavy lifting for you. Picks best practices layouts, gives you the ability to default color schemes, gives you the ability to override layouts, but it's all one click, 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 click. And then you don't do anything to gather the data. Our system gathers the data and presents it to you seamlessly for your use, and allows you to move it out of the system to manipulate it in Excel spreadsheets and aggregate it by division and all that kind of stuff, which is critical, because this is, we're all familiar with big data systems and business analytics systems, and you can't you can't depend upon systems that are going to take you a large amount of time to analyze the data that's coming at you, because everything is just moving too fast. You've got to have a system that in one glance I can understand what I need to do to change my information sharing behavior, and change it now to connect in a different way with the people I'm accountable to connect with. So hopefully that answers that question there. So we're rounding the corner at the 50-minute mark here. And so I would open it up to any other questions, or Jeff, any other comments that you have, or
there
insights that you wanted to share?
Tony, that come in about how does this compare to HubSpot I guess some of the folks probably are used to that as one of the marketing-oriented tools, but maybe I know you're a HubSpot familiar person. How would you compare?
Oh, absolutely. We're huge. Yeah, we are HubSpot advocates to the hilt and fully implemented HubSpot users. We use every aspect of the HubSpot automated marketing platform, and we're just getting stronger insights on a regular basis because of our use there. And what I would say about that is that HubSpot is an awesome tool for our to help us fill the top of the funnel in aggregate numbers and help us to build the brand and to develop our thought leadership and to spread our thought leadership and to connect with our customers and prospects in a meaningful way. I mean, we first and foremost do our content marketing research around this problem statement, around the problem of just sharing information to share it because it's so easy to share these days. And all of our research is all focused on how do we increase the level of engagement across our organizations with the information that we share. And HubSpot, automated marketing tool, just like Marketo and all the others, really help you to connect with the people that are visiting you in the digital world, and really help me to validate that we're sharing content at that level that helps our customers beyond just our technology, because that's really what we're all about. Where our technology, Ving, differs is it brings it down to the level of the person that's accountable, whether a sales rep, an HR manager, a team leader, executive leadership, people who need to quickly group information or jump into a library of templates of best practices and use that in their local level, and then be able to have those data-driven insights as to how people interacted with the information that they shared. And these are people that they need to know now how they're interacting so that they can make decisions today, tomorrow, prior to the end of the week on how they want to interact with the people they've shared information with to make sure that we're advancing towards our goals. So it's about creating little bursts of reusable data for frontline accountable resources. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really
I think
good,
that
Tony.
I keep asking that as if I'm going to get a response from the person that asked the question. Unfortunately, this is a one-way a facilitated webinar for right now. So go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a couple other questions that have come in. One is, what is the ease of use with this tool? How hard is it to create and send these packets of information, and is it difficult to read and sort through the information provided? I think you've touched on some of those, but maybe you have another point or two to add to that.
Yeah, I can certainly touch on one aspect of it because I think we've already answered the other is, how do you get this information out to people in Ving? So we define Ving as a digital trackable packet of information. And Vings are designed to help you and lead you to that best practice, that optimal combination of information that should be included in that packet to get the maximum level of engagement. Well, the other side of it is not everybody likes to communicate or shares information through one channel. Sales reps don't just communicate to customers through email. They text things. They direct them to the website and other places. So Vings can be shared through email. You can text it. You can post it on a website or in a portal. We have customers in the national defense and manufacturing arena that have a secured portal. They will create Vings grouped with project information and post them inside of their firewalled, secured national defense database. And when their people sign on to that, they can go in and they find different projects, and they find Vings specifically constructed with the right information to facilitate engagement on information exchange about a particular project. And that's really important to know, is because if I'm really concerned about the combination of information, I should also be concerned about how I'm actually physically getting it to people. Like I said, email, text, post, in a portal, a website, those kinds of things on my social media, like on my Twitter or my LinkedIn page. How do I want to get this information out to the people that I'm sharing it with in my territory or in my division? That becomes very important. And even more critically important, well, I guess it's equally important, I should say, is that the data, no matter where you put your information, should always flow back to one dashboard. And that's what we give people the ability to post a thing, deliver it however you want to any groups of audiences, and all the data on its performance comes back to one place. So I hope I answered that question for the individual. We have just a few more minutes here.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes. There is one additional question. It's kind of, I guess, a two-parter of sorts. It's how is the solution priced or charged for? So how is it priced or charged for, and are there a minimum number of users required?
Sure. So basically what we do is there's not a minimum number of users required. You do not need to have a Ving license in order to receive a Ving. So if I wanted to send a Ving outside of my organization to a customer or maybe to a new hire candidate, and they do not have to set up an account to engage with that information. They just simply start engaging with it, and I still get all of my data tracking. So the only people that really need a Ving account are the people that want to look at a data dashboard and where we want to be able to create and send Vings. And the big part of it is being able to look at that data dashboard. So if I have, so a Ving account starts at, and we scale pricing obviously for larger organizations, but it starts at $50 a seat per month per Ving user or per Ving account holder. So if I have people that want to create and send Vings and look at data, then they would need a Ving account of their own. So it's a very simple, scalable pricing model. What we tend to do is we tend to present people with packages designed to help them set goals, leverage best practices from our knowledge database, and to create their Ving library as quickly as possible. And so we help them get ramped up right out the chute in a particular area of focus so they can experience the power of looking at those data, engagement data on their dashboard as quickly as possible and begin to get return on their investment with the technology. All right. I guess in closing here, I want to thank everybody so much for sticking with us. We've had a great number of viewers today. This has been fantastic. Thank you for all the questions. I really appreciate that as well. It helps to keep it interactive. And as you can see here on the screen, if anybody would like to try the Ving system out, we'd welcome you to get started with a free trial. I don't know if that's a hyperlink or not. I don't think it is where the free trial button is, but if you click on the or go to vingapp.com and look for that orange button in the upper right-hand corner and click that. You can set up a free trial and give Ving a try in your organization. At any point in time, chat or call our Ving Success Team member. They've got a huge database and repository of experiences on what works great for different types of people, personas, and roles in different types of organizations, and we'd love to share those success stories with you. So thank you so much. Jeff, thanks for being a co-presenter today, and look forward to presenting with you again in the future.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Have a great day,
everyone.
Thanks so
much, Tony.
Yep. Bye. Have a great day, everyone.